When I drive through Oklahoma, I can't help but think of you. And for reasons still unclear to me, we didn't much get by. We'd stack up like dominoes and we'd fall down each time. Well, cowboy.
Now we're live. We're good. Hello, everyone. This is Voices of the Heartland. I'm not completely sold on the name yet, I'll be honest with you. I created it with AI. If y'all ever use ChatGPT.
For just a title? Like,
yeah. I was like, I needed to cover all the things. We tried to be like... You can't just cover football. You can't, paint yourself in a corner and like, why are you talking about football with something or... So it's up in the air a little bit. But I kind of
like it. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
It'll be a good question for Kyle because he's got something that he named, and I know that story's cool.
I'm a fan of Voices of the Heartland. I think it's a lot of opportunity to go in different directions there, and you don't really limit yourself to particular guests.
That's what I was thinking. And we're trying to stay in the Midwest/South. So I was like, Heartland, man. That's Oklahoma, but it's everywhere. So, quick introductions, I guess. Chris, go first.
My name's Chris Cole. I'm a football coach in the state of Oklahoma, and yep, that's me.
Chris is here because he used to do a podcast. What was it called?
Jared Knox. It's I would say go check it out, but like they took it off of iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I'm sure it's still on Spotify and everything, but yeah, I used to do a podcast where we talked about nerdy stuff and sports. Like, yeah, me and another football coach that were really into like Marvel movies and things.
Yeah, I learned a lot about you this year, and it made complete sense why. Like that's why you're here, though. We're gonna have next Friday. We have a legitimate actor coming on.
I know. I'm gonna make me feel pretty, inferior. But I did some collegiate theater. Like I'm good at like 3 things, 4 if you count strength and conditioning. But like football, nerdy stuff, and acting, theater. But whatever.
That's exactly. I can't imagine getting on stage. In fact, I'll tell you this. It's really funny. I've always like had this weird dream of going up and doing stand-up comedy. But every time I get in front of a microphone, my body makes me yawn a lot. Like I just start, it's like a weird thing, except for this mic, for whatever reason. But like on a live, it's weird. It's so strange. But I thought that might be part of the act, right? Like, can you imagine getting this, like trying to do this when your body naturally shuts down every time you stare at people's faces? Like, it'd be funny. All right, Kyle, guest number 1. And
welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, we're excited. I've been impatiently waiting all day long because I think it's super cool. Anytime you mix genres and when I found out you were a football coach, I was like, that is even cooler. So, welcome. So tell us about you, man.
Yeah, my name's Kyle Ross. I am also a football coach in Oklahoma. Work in Bixby, Oklahoma, a suburb of South Tulsa, and do some other stuff too. I think Chris is someone who has these like his Venn diagram of where he is in the middle is like small space of like he had mentioned like the theater and football and
right.
and yeah, and so I've been told I think I occupy a little bit of a similar space because I do other stuff too. I think I've been invited because I do music stuff also. So have a band called Keyland. It's my music project, and yeah, that's it.
I am a big fan of your music. I had no idea you were a football coach till Chris and I started talking about it, I don't know, a month ago or whatever. When the show started becoming a thing. And I was telling you earlier, but I'll tell the crowd because they'll want to hear that I found your music through a random Twitter post. I just said, it was kind of neat. I found a lot of good music that day, but I just said, sell me on your favorite band with like 3 songs. And I wish I even knew which 3 because I just looked them up. I bought them all. Everyone that everyone said, I was like, I went to iTunes and bought music that day. And then played them, and I was like, no, I could jam to this. There's some stuff that's on my iTunes I'll never go back to, but I found a lot of good music that day. So, and yours was part of it. So I'm pretty interested to hear kind of how that came about. I have another friend that's in the music industry, Cody Barnett from the Ada area. You may or may not know him. I mean, he's like gone to Nashville and lived for like a year or whatever. And I think he just went back to construction. He was like, chasing this crap isn't worth it. I can just play gigs on the weekend. But I'm super excited to hear your story tonight.
I like how you said this guy went to Nashville and did a year, like it was like a prison term, like going and like trying to find gigs and stuff. And like when you got one, people were like watching you play your craft. But yeah,
I mean, touche. I wouldn't have the cojones to go do something like that. It's like you can't just disappear to go to a D1 college and coach for a year. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, but I guess you could just stand in the stadium and wear a visor, wear a headset, and pretend until someone hires you. Fake it till you make it.
Just wear a bunch of crimson and like follow them as they go out to those grass fields for practice. Like, hey, give me my shot. You know, like when you're having open mic night, like give me one. You know.
That is basically the. Have you guys seen the sign stealing documentary?
Connor Stallions.
Yeah, Connor. That's like what he did, essentially, more or less.
Except he's a psycho.
He's a military veteran.
A lot of people who moved to.
It's I have to go back and look at, but I'm pretty sure he was in like intelligence in the military, and so he came home with this. I have a particular set of skills, and if you play offense against me, you will not like it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, whatever it takes.
I think he was kind of groomed from like huge Michigan fan from little kids. So I think I think one of his bigger problems too is like if you call something a manifesto, you're gonna turn people off immediately. Like, you know what I mean? The Michigan Manifesto, that sounds like something that came up, for a second Civil War. Right. No, that guy was probably like 1 or 2 or 3 life decisions away from, maybe some other interesting things.
Right.
That it's probably a good thing he loves Michigan football.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
100%. All right, Kyle, tell us the story, man. How did Keyland come about? I want to hear it all. I'm interested.
Yeah. So I'm from small town, Missouri, originally, born and raised. Small town called Chillicothe, Missouri. And was there growing up my whole life. And then when it came time for college, kind of decided late where to go and ended up in Tulsa at a small school in Tulsa. And was, kind of out of things to do, more or less, like stopped doing sports and had a bunch of extra time on my hands and kind of picked up music and fell in love with that. And that kind of developed. And when I got out of school, I hadn't really, I hadn't written things or really even sang until I was out of college and got out of school and kind of started writing and liked singing enough that I decided I was going to try to pursue that and kind of just slowly but surely started recording some music with some friends, and that kind of just persisted and continued to do that. And then it got, it's hard to self-evaluate, but I think it got better and better and better. And then to the point to where some really cool stuff's been happening in the last year, and songs have been getting in front of more and more people and really cool people, and it's been a lot of fun. So that's kind of.
So I'm going to ask in weird orders here because so in today's music industry, where like people don't buy CDs, and I mean apparently from the text I just got from another coach, I'm the only person that pays for music. I guess everyone else just Spotify's, but. How does that, does it go in front of like some kind of record executive, or do you have to make a label and sell it? How does all that work?
So like a lot of artists are completely independent. I just recently, probably a month ago, maybe a little over a month ago, signed a record deal with a small company called One Riot. They do publishing and they have a label side, which is awesome. So this is all new. It's kind of like cool. It's all good timing because cool music stuff's been happening recently. But before that, smaller artists, a lot of times you find ways to fund recording your music and get creative, and then you need kind of like there's some third-party companies that will publish music on things like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all that stuff, Amazon. So you basically just pay those third-party companies, and they'll put your stuff up. So
I've gotten into writing a little bit recently, and like I'm working with Kenny Simpson out of Arkansas and writing a book. My wife just said breaking news on the podcast, so there you go. Like first show, we're breaking news. I love it. But Kenny's, we started using like Amazon, or he uses Amazon to publish all of his books, and so that's what he got me into. I feel like that's stupid simple for somebody that's doing everything brand new. Is like, yeah, you just use it. But I can't imagine. Is there a place like that for music? Like if I wrote a song tomorrow, could I do that?
Yep, there's there's a few of them. For instance, the third party distributor that I use is called DistroKid, and like it's very, very common. Most people who are kind of doing that are using that, or there's a handful of other ones as well that people will use. And then there's companies that only distribute. So I kind of went from DistroKid to another company that was a distributor, and all you did was gave them our music, and then they would publish it. And now that I'm with this label called One Riot, I'm basically just giving them the stuff, and they worry about publishing it and getting it out. So
did One Riot find you guys, or is it something where you like sent it out to them?
No, the president of the company, her name's Amy Patton, and she just cold DM'd me on Instagram. And
nice.
Chris, you would like this because I think, do you know Paul Cuffin, Chris?
Sorry, but no, I do not.
Oh, I thought we had talked about him. I think you would really like him.
We may have.
I think you would like him. So he's on like the publishing side of this company, and there's some it's kind of a Americana singer-songwriter, country-esque vein of folks who are on it. But yeah, they just reached out, and we had several conversations on Zoom, and this is all new to me, so I'm like, it's fun to talk about because it's like I don't know about this stuff. I'm learning. So we had conversations for several weeks, and then it was like, yeah, let's work together. And I got a lawyer, which was cool because I had never like done stuff like that, and lawyers negotiated, and it was honestly a pretty quick process. It was just a few months probably, but
that seems terrifying.
It's awesome. Like even someone reaching out to you to say, "Hey, I want to push your voice further," it puts you in that zone of like, are they taking advantage of me? Am I on the cusp of being really big? Yeah. And now they want to steal the glory. Look, the gentleman Steven approached me about this show and wanting to build, and I'm like, well, I know I could never get. He showed me, the viewers and all that, and I'm like, I'll never get there ever. But I can't imagine being represented by a media company. Like I don't know what all's involved with that, right? So it is a very weird feeling. You go through that stage of, or is someone just trying to take advantage of me?
Yeah. And Daniel, you may have you may also understand this. I had some kind of mutual friends who were able to like fact check. I reached out to some people and were like, hey, is this legit? You know these people? And I had a handful who were like, oh yeah, we know them, or we know so-and-so, or so-and-so works with so-and-so. And so, and I knew a lot of the artists on the label too. So that helped who are with the team. A lot of them are just publishing, which is a little different, but I knew several of them and liked their music. So it was like, oh, cool. So it's still surreal. It's like I don't know how you got tricked or, convinced to like the music, but it's been good.
because it's really good.
There is no trick, dude. The music's fantastic. You did a very good job. So keep putting that out. I'm actually excited to hear the new stuff. I didn't realize I had like 3 albums or what. I mean, I have a ton of your music because once I heard one, I just kept hitting buy on iTunes. So
thanks.
It's good stuff. Chris, you have to do you can figure out how to make a play around his music, interpretive dance. That's your drama.
Oh, well, so I was going to tell the story of my perspective of Kyle, because I've known you for almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
And so because it used to not be called Keyland, it was called Keyland Music Company.
Yes.
And so I was like, the name's too long, bro. The name's it's too much name.
I kind of liked it, and I hate that it switched, honestly, because now I have 2 different artists in my iTunes account. Now I can't just shuffle your music. I had to make a playlist to shuffle. So
that's the biggest bugaboo with having it on iTunes. Is you can't it's either Keyland Music Company, which has the old stuff, or Keyland, which is when I want to listen to the new stuff. Because you know me, I'm a classic Keyland Music Company guy. I like the older stuff.
That says it actually. So Kyle.
Yeah, I wear it every Sunday, but I wear it too much. I almost cut the sleeves off of it, but I didn't. Because I was like, no, this would be so cool, floating a river or whatever. And then I was like, nice, hang on the sleeves just a little bit longer. But Kyle, when he got to Bixby, I was going into my 2nd year there. At what stage was Keyland at that point? Did it have a name? Had you started doing shows or anything?
It basically coincided exactly with when I started work, more or less. Got out of college. I think I got hired at Bixby 1st of July in 2020. 2020. Yeah. And basically the music and working were started at the exact same time. So it's been that both those things happened same time.
That's the same year that I started coaching, fall of COVID year. That's a wild year to get started in any career.
Yeah.
But especially a career where you only get 10 times to work, and they shut down 5 of them or what, right? What a wild time to be alive.
We got to, so I guess the fall, we got to play all those games, right? I guess we went to Blanchard once because somebody.
We were scheduled to play Stillwater. Payne County shut everything down. We were scheduled to play another small school, my hometown. They canceled on a Thursday, and then 4A Blanchard is we're supposed to have our homecoming. Y'all bring your JV down here, and we were like, yeah, sure. And
on it,
we ended up bringing Luke Has, who's a tight end for Ole Miss now, and whatever. He was a sophomore. He needed the reps. But we also picked up Carl Albert that year.
Oh, yeah.
Not very long after. But circling back around to when Kyle got hired, it was pretty funny because there were a couple of spots open at Bixby, and I had been there for a year at that point, and then we were all shut down. When we came back, it was you have to wear your mask and you have to do this, and if we catch you without your mask on, you're going to get yelled at, and you have to temperature check hundreds and hundreds of kids that are coming through that strength and conditioning program at Bixby. And then to me, what it felt like was the very first day, and here's a new guy starting, his name's Kyle. And I was like, what? Who's this skinny guy? And then it's and I was just this is nuts. It was just insanity to go through all that.
Skill guy. Thank you very much. Skill guy. It's not skinny guy. It's skill guy.
To me, in my mindset where I was still trying to be this, I'm trying to make a name for myself as a good football coach there, because I'd done basically a semester, and then the second semester got shut down in my first year. Then we start that 2020 season, and Kyle definitely, he's one of the hardest workers in the room. And turns out what year did you clean 300 pounds? I'm jumping all over the place right now, but he's I was where did you find this guy? He didn't play college football. He's not from Oklahoma. And our offensive coordinator is oh, we do CrossFit together. And so he's going to be a good hand. And we were just all right, cool, whatever, jump on in, man. And so it's pretty cool. But
go ahead, Chris. No, I totally just like, and still, very, very much new to like the coaching profession, but totally just cut my teeth by Chris the whole time, that whole year. Just like, all right, this guy's seems cool, young guy. Like, I'm just going to follow him around, practice every day for a year. And that's what I did.
That'll get you there. Follow the young ones around that seem cool. That's definitely the way to learn football.
Yeah, that's what I'd kind of forgotten. I admit. So the way I had previously like sent in a resume and sent an email that was just like a cold email to the principal of the high school at Bixby and Coach Montgomery, and along with like 10 other schools, in the area, because I just needed a job, and wasn't really hearing back from anybody. And then I was going to a CrossFit gym at the time in Jinx, Oklahoma, CrossFit Jinx, and met somebody one day, was like, oh yeah, like you just graduated, you're looking for a teaching coaching job. This guy over here, Tyler Snyder, is the offensive coordinator at Bixby. Like, you should talk to him. And I was like, yes, I should talk to him, and met him. And then the next day I got a phone call from Coach Montgomery.
That's awesome. So now we're going to have to leverage your music and now your podcast fandom and get you in the varsity staff. That's the next step.
Yeah, let's go.
It's been 5 years, Coach Montgomery. It's been 5 years. Bring the man up.
No, man, the awesome thing about, Bixby football is and I think this speaks to like the success, is there's such a large group of like tenured coaches who have been there. And that's, I think that's like what makes it what it is, there's, I don't know, there's 11 or 12 guys on the varsity staff who have been there over a decade together.
Yeah.
Which, like, you're talking careers in general, that's probably a unique thing to talk about. Like, that's a pretty large percentage of the overall group of coaches who have just been together for a really long time. So
I think that's pretty hard to do in today's society anyway. I mean, and I don't want to get too much into college ball, but it's not, the transfer portal era of players is new, but coaching wise, that's not new, right? Coaches go places all the time. And so
all the time.
If you can keep a group like that together, number one, it speaks volumes about Coach Montgomery and just like the type of boss he is. People just want to be around him and stay under his tutelage, even when they probably should go take big jobs elsewhere. So, I mean, that's pretty neat.
I mean, Chris is a great example. Like, Chris left.
I wouldn't say a great example. I'm an example.
You're an example of, like, I don't know how many of those guys could be head coaches, but excuse me, I'd say most of them.
Yeah, I mean,
not all of them,
and successful at it, right? Like, you learn, you're fully developed. Back to the music. We'll cover that football stuff some more later, I'm sure. Chris, the question's already getting asked, so just be prepared. Prepare yourself. The playing guitar. When did you start? I know you said you started writing and stuff after some high school or whatever, but when did you start actually playing a guitar?
I took lessons in grade school, like in, I think, third grade-ish. I took lessons for probably like 3-ish years. And then that was, I was getting into middle school, and then I was getting older, and it was kind of like, all right, I'm too cool to go to Miss Stark's house on the corner and have my mom drop me off and then pick me back up in 45 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So I definitely I always kind of liked it, but didn't do it very much. And then, got out of high school, and it was like, okay, I got a lot of time on my hands here, and definitely just kind of fell in love with it. So
that's awesome. I grew up in a household. My mom's probably listening to this, and she's gonna be like, Daniel Bryce, I can't believe, but like, you did not play instruments in our house, right? I was drums, I was saxophone, like trying to find. I really enjoyed the learning, much like I do now. I'm just like a serial learner. All I want to do is just go learn new things, almost to the point that like it's hard to find a thing and be consistent with it because I want to learn the next new thing. But you were not playing an instrument in that house, and so I didn't pick it up until I want to say we were in Iraq, but it might have been Afghanistan. I think it was Afghanistan. A buddy of mine. We started guitars and cigars because, kind of like what you said, you have a lot of time on your hands. So we were up on this little small, it was called a J-Cop, but just a very small base, like 500 or less people. But we had a smoke pit, and so every evening we'd go out there and like smoke a big cigar. And you could order those. You get those in the mail. And I ordered a cheap Fender on Amazon, and they actually sent me a model way too high. Like it was multiple models higher than I bought. So we did guitars and cigar, and that's where I learned. So I came home with like 6 chords, and
that's awesome.
I want to pass on to my sons, but I don't know how to get them to play. Do what?
I said that's like 2 or 3 more than you need.
Yeah,
as far as chords go.
Yeah, I've gotten to like 10, and I'm like, I can play a lot of stuff, but now I just don't consistently play. So, but it's very hard.
That's awesome. I didn't realize you played. That's awesome.
I piddle. There's no playing. I started playing and singing, which everyone I know that played guitar was like, that's really hard. Like, that's difficult to play, like, in rhythm and sing. But I was like, it seems pretty easy to me. And so, like, if people drink enough beer, I can go out and sing a good song, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I have this thing where I want to do it live as well. And I actually just randomly asked this dude. We went to not an open mic. The guy had they'd hired a local to do a concert at this little bar. And I was like, what are the odds that I can just play a song? And he was like, you're not touching my guitar. I was like, oh, okay. Sweet. Appreciate it. So
that was almost an old country song, but that guy shot it down.
Yes. Yeah, right? Like, it could have been my origin story, and he killed it. So, well, that's cool, man. I didn't know what age to even try to think about starting my kids. Like, they pull the guitar off the wall, and they'll, kid strum on it, but I'm not better than I give myself credit for, Samantha Lynn. My wife is on the Facebook thing talking over here, so. Yeah, so I mean, that's just really cool. I can't imagine, honestly, I would be have so much fear, so anxious about stepping in front of people. But I love people that could do that. It doesn't matter what the talent is, but if you go out and make a talent and you get good enough at it that you can stand in front of people and do it, that's pretty wild.
I think, like, honestly, I've thought about that, and Chris maybe can talk about this because he's done like theater. But
that was going to be one of my questions. But go ahead, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say it was something like I've never really I guess I have thought about that, but not. It's something that I've enjoyed so much. Like, I like doing it so much that it's like I'm not gonna not do this. Like, it's too fun to not do, if that makes sense.
It does.
So it was like and I guess I've never been like I've done other things, like growing up all the time was speaking in front of people and talking in front of people. Never any like musical stuff, but like just being in front of other people has never bothered me.
Yeah, I think military-wise and a little bit of college. I took a public speaking in college, but like once you've I don't talk too much about the military, although there'll be a lot of military in the show because it's a big part of who I am and a lot of our guests. But you stand in front of 35 people and give a brief overseas that you're going to take this, convoy out on mission, whatever it is. Like, you get pretty good at just talking to people without worrying about that judgment, because people are going to judge no matter what, right? But
oh yeah.
So walk me through your first gig, your first live show. Like, I'm going out, I'm doing it for the first time. What's that like?
So this is a cool story because it's cool. Yeah, the first gig, like legitimate gig ever, was I bought a house in 2021. Like this house that I'm currently still in, and live with roommates, and we just hosted a house party here, like right where I'm staying, like sitting at the kitchen table, and just moved all the furniture. And we invited, just shamelessly invited all of my friends and all of their friends. And
he invited all of us too. And we were like all the coaching staff. We're like, dude, we're dads and stuff. I'm not gonna hang out at sounds like a college party. You know what I mean? Like,
because it was.
I don't think that's true, Chris. Did I invite you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being like, "What? He's playing music," and Nelson was like, "Yeah, let's go." Like, nah, dude, we're too old for that. We can't do that.
That's hilarious.
You
That's
guys take
probably
a case
true.
in to get entered. Like, what's the entry fee?
There were I made I had a buddy make tickets, like graphic design tickets, They weren't real tickets, but they were just like, it was like an invitation that looked like a ticket.
Right.
You know, it was like you're formally invited, but this is your ticket to come.
That is so like Tenacious D, like such a cool like way to do things.
And we probably had like 50 people in my living room, and it was awesome, and played all original songs and played a few covers, but it was awesome.
Was that the most nerve-wracking part? Was it being something that you had created, like that you and your friends had created, not just something that, people had expectations for, but this was like, what is the world going to think about this thing that I created?
It was, I knew everyone here too, which was like, I don't know. It was, I also just like didn't think too much about it. I was like, yeah, I think this stuff's cool. And it seems like if people came over, they also thought it was cool. So I never took too long to like overthink that.
I think it's in any industry it's that imposter syndrome, right? You hear that a lot, but if you think of in football, like we're all in the metro area. When I think defense, I think of Adam Gaylor as like the god of defense of football, right? Like he is really awesome at what he does. And I think about me calling defense out there on a Friday night, right? As a first year coordinator, I had the same job as Adam Gaylor. Like obviously he's Jinx and I was at 1A Wyandotte, but in a way, like you're putting your own spin on stuff. Imposter syndrome immediately. When I got into podcasting, my very first episode was a trial with Joe Daniel, and he was like, "Oh no, this is actually just our first episode together." I was like, "Oh my god!" But you just kind of jump both feet in, right? You just go for it. So I can't imagine like putting out music. I guess I can imagine it. It would be weird, but anxiety galore. But if I put out a song, because all your life you've heard music, right? That's like groomed and it's perfect, and the lyrics are written by some professional. So if you write lyrics, like how are people going to take this? And I mean, you obviously did a really good job of it, but I'm sure the first time it went on the radio or you heard it was strange.
Oh yeah. I think too. I try to not overthink that. I think I felt myself go to those places, and it's just like don't think about it. Like that's pointless. Just just don't do it. So, right, like some form of ignorance there probably. But I think also like by the time that it's out, I'm kind of my own worst critic. And so it's like I would like to think that my standard is high enough that it's like, okay, if I like this, I'm, counting on someone else to also like it.
Right.
So.
No, that's a good point. Chris, when you're doing your live things, what do you call it? Plays? Did you have that same thing, or were you I know you said you did a lot at Stigler, right? And so by the time you got to college, was it just kind of second nature?
Yeah, I mean, I was like people do not believe this, but I was like a really shy, introverted kid. Like I was like super shy. I didn't talk to people and like really insecure and everything. And then when I was like at Stigler, it's the weirdest program, because I've been around a bunch of high schools now, but it's almost like the cool kids you take speech 1 as a sophomore. Right. And if you're good at it, you're allowed to audition for drama. And then as a junior and a senior, you get to do it. And I just took this speech class, and I remember the teacher was just like not excited about having me in there because I was just like a really quiet kid. And I just like got in there and kind of faked it, and I was kind of good at it. And then the thing that really brought me out of my shell, because if I hadn't done this, I started working at Charlie's Chicken with all these like upperclassmen guys, and they would just be back there and like make me come out of my shell and like speak up and stuff. And it just benefited me for the second half of that sophomore year. And then, but like taking that leap the first time you're on stage, like I'm sure it's different for music, because when you guys rehearse things, Kyle, is it like you're kind of circled up and you're not outwardly projecting to an audience per se? Is that kind of how you guys rehearse your stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. When you're rehearsing for like a stage show, your buddies are out in the audience, or the people that aren't on stage, or in college, it's the director out there and they're like taking notes on their laptop or whatever. And you're just like, you experiment, you do things, stuff like that. And then when the lights come on and it's an audience out there, it's like, okay, take a deep breath and go. And I remember my first time, it was like terrifying, but I just took a deep breath. And it's like you said, you just jump in and go for it. And from then it was like, to me, it was like an addiction. Like there was no greater thrill than performing. And I used to tell people in college too, because in college I wasn't a theater major. I was just someone that was like good at acting. Like I didn't want to take classes. I'm not saying I'm like a savant or like, whatever, but like I just like being in front of people and performing, and they'd be like, oh, hey, do you want to help build sets? And I'm like, I'm in this for one thing, and it's the applause and when I get to take a bow. Like, that's it. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people feel whatever my character's supposed to make them feel, and that's what I enjoyed. And I remember just circling back around to music. It was like my third year of college theater that they made me do a musical, because I've always like sang with friends. Like everybody sings in their car. And I had these like 4.5-hour road trips from Stigler to where I went to college. And I sang a lot. And I didn't think I was good. Like I could mimic, Green Day and, not like stellar vocal. Like, yeah, he's a stellar vocalist, but like it doesn't necessarily come through in most of their popular songs. But I could mimic that, and then started taking like vocal lessons. And I remember that was a bigger fear, to sing in front of a crowd. Because I have no rhythm and I could not keep counting music. They had to give me like special intro, like dings, till I knew when to start singing, or someone on stage would give me like like there was a cue. And then once that started, boom, I could go. But couldn't count music, couldn't read music, just had to do everything like that. But yeah, I would say being on a stage, that's more addicting than anything. Like coaching football, it's fun, it's very rewarding. But like if you were to grab me right now and be like, hey, you can go tour with whatever, like a musical or with a play, bye. Like I'd go do it right now, because it's a different rush. It's a different feeling.
I think the singing is so weird because we've all heard people sing terribly, and you can always project that on yourself, right? Like, oh my God, I would be so bad at, I would be that person. People they'd be snickering. Oh my God, did you hear them? To where most of the other performances, people don't do it enough in public, like unless they're good, right? Like playing guitar. Not a lot of people are just like standing up in front of people playing terrible guitar. So it's hard to project that.
I've been to some parties in some pastures back in the day where some people did not know what they were doing on a guitar, but they sure thought
that is a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it probably sounded good to you because, parties.
But the courage of that young man to stand up and, just nail Smoke on the Water's intro 18 times, or, blast out Wonderwall. It's just, I applaud him, good stuff. So now cool. I'm being judgmental. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy.
I don't want you to be that either. Kyle, tell me about what's up next for Keyland.
Man, there've been some. I've been on just like a really cool, like few months stretch, and then like a really cool, just like 7, 8, 10 day stretch of talk. Have had like a dozen really cool phone calls. Really excited, like probably in October, I think it was, is when I signed this record deal. So with that, there's going to be a song release every month, basically through March. And then March, or it's either March or April. I think it's March. There's an EP release. It's like the first EP with these guys. And then at the end of the year, in 2025, there'll be like a second EP that comes out. And those will come together to create LP1, so like the first full-length record, which is awesome. And so yeah, that's kind of release stuff. And then I think, I've had some really cool conversations with some people, and hoping to get on some tours in 2025. Might be on. There's nothing like set in stone yet, but got an agent, which is awesome, and might end up on some tours that I shouldn't be on. So that's awesome.
That's really neat. So what does EP and LP stand for? I see them all the time.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I don't know, honestly. I'm asking because I want to learn something tonight.
LP comes from like record days, long play, is what that stands for. And so when someone's referring to an LP, it's like a full length record. An EP, I have no idea what that acronym stands for. I don't know what extended play maybe. And so it's like an EP as people know it digitally, and probably also is a derivative of vinyl, but that is like a half or a short album. So probably like as a novella is to a novel, EP is to an LP.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
5 or 6 songs.
So touring, how are you going to fit that around football season? Because come on now.
I don't know. We're ask me in May or July.
There you go.
So I it's been, it's like one of these deals where it's like been, I guess I said earlier, I've like started both the music and coaching at the same time, and it's been one of those deals where I've tried to just give both. If you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, and they, to some degree, I knew it eventually would kind of go like this one day, but don't know if I'm there yet or not, but we'll see. So
that's awesome.
He's done coach a football game on a Friday night, and then, hey guys, there's a show at the whatever club on Saturday night. And I'm like, there's no way. But Kyle's also like, your demeanor is a little bit different than mine. You don't like lose your voice every time you go to practice. You're a little bit more soft spoken than I am.
You don't yell at practice, do you, Chris?
Sometimes. I mean, like sometimes you got to.
Sometimes you have to. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well,
what do you think? Sorry, but has there been a moment so far in like your musical career where you were just like, holy crap, I'm like, either I'm about to do this or like I'm doing this? Like a moment.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not, I don't know how much to reveal or not, and it's not secretive or whatever, but like this week I've had like conversations like Monday, and it's like, oh, okay. I didn't, and that was like talk about imposter syndrome of like, hey, these things are very plausible to happen in 2025. Not saying that it will, but like should maybe start planning accordingly. And so I'm kind of like a little dumbfounded of just other people who like believe in the stuff and so I don't know. The future is a little uncertain right now. But
where does your music get pushed to right now?
It's like, where is it published? Is that what you're saying? It's on like all the major, like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Amazon. If you can listen to music on something, it's on something. Yeah. A few weeks ago, I got put on Touch Tunes. You know what Touch Tunes are?
No idea.
It's like if you go to a bar and it has a jukebox, it's Touch Tunes. Unless it's some backwoods, like old school vintage jukebox. Like they basically have a monopoly on jukeboxes. And so Keyland music is now, which is the coolest thing ever, because it's like now you can listen to Keyland music in
Applebee's while you're having your
steak
and shrimp or whatever they sell.
I can play Oklahoma Sky right after Higher by Creed. You know what I mean? Like that's how I know what Touch Tunes is. It's like everyone at Applebee's angrily staring at me because I just spent $100 on Creed at the Touch Tunes. You know what I mean? But like, that's cool.
Yes.
Oh man, that's really good. Well, I mean I think it's pretty neat, like that it keeps growing. Has it been like I don't know how to really. Do you have a place you track listens or downloads or streams that you've got to watch numbers grow?
Yeah, like probably just like the most base numbers are like on monthly listeners on Spotify. And like listens per song on Spotify. And that's gone up. And I think I think a lot of artists, like developing artists, would tell you, I'm sure podcast is the same way. Like, I am not going to live and die by that.
There you go, Mike. Mike was asking about bourbon, so I had to show him.
Oh, there we go.
I broke out the good stuff for the initial show. We're on E.H. Taylor tonight.
I just came from the liquor store because I got some Christmas presents for my dad and my brother-in-law.
Now they know what it is because the whole world is watching.
It's Well, there's no way they're watching. My father doesn't know how to work like
Facebook.
He's like, Yeah. Oh, he's not on any social media. Yeah. No way.
Oh, that's funny.
But I don't know what I was saying.
You mentioned
about tracking numbers, and I asked because podcast wise, like, I jumped originally 3-4 years ago, whatever. I jumped in with Joe Daniel, and he already has a huge base, right? And he's told me that the numbers have gone up since I've joined a little bit, and a lot of that's just because time passes and more people find the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm in no way, shape, or form a reasoning for numbers going up, but starting a new one in April of 23 with Kenny Simpson, who's Arkansas coach. It felt more regional, right? Like people around us might listen a little bit more. And then Kenny already has a national brand, but the podcast, it started really, we were like 400 or 500 downloads a month or whatever. And I was like, well, that's not very many. And then, we broke 5,000 I think it was this month, maybe last month. And so it's just neat because I can watch on a graph how many people download our stuff. And part of it's there's more to download. More people hear about us. We get better at it. That's the other things. Like I wasn't very good in the beginning, and we just continue to grow. So it's
100%. I think it's like a double-edged sword because on the business side of things, it's like that growth, or at least maintenance needs to occur in order to put your product out there, right? But then like music-wise, it's an art, and it's like, am I going to allow myself to be upset or to be really happy about a song that gets put out solely based on the number of people who supposedly listen or don't listen, And so I try to not, I guess, base, like, it is important for success. I also think that, like, there's other reasons that I want to be, a story of somebody saying they really listened to the song. I had a kind of a mutual friend just last weekend. She's friends with my friends, and we went to the Zach Bryan show last weekend in Tulsa, and we were talking about music. She didn't know I made music, and then the next day, like, DM me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, I was listening to this one song of yours, and I like just started crying in the car, and like I don't know why, but it was like that. Like I just wanted, like, I told our friends, our mutual friends, and they were all like, I should tell you." And I just, like, that song's like, that just really meant something to me for whatever reason. And so stuff like that is like always going to be more important than, you got an extra 1,000 monthly listeners or whatever.
Right.
Not that that's not important, but
you do have a good mix of like, there's types of songs I don't like, right? But there's a lot of them. I'm an old Jamie Johnson fan, so I like a super sad, low rumbly voice country song that just makes you question everything you've ever done in life. Like, for whatever reason, that's my music. I just really like it. And so you've got some that like hit that spot, and then some of them like Oklahoma Sky. Like, there's some really good ones out there that were a little more upbeat. Haunted is a real good one. I can just go through your whole thing. It's just, you have a ton of great songs, but. I think it's neat you have so many, because I'm sure it does reach different people. Do you ever find yourself shaping your next songs based on the success of old ones?
I think you get a recency bias of like the stuff that's most recent now is like what I like the most typically. I would say that, like, maybe not the success of other songs, but like as time has gone by, like that time kind of proves whether or not I, like, oh, that was actually a good song that I published, or like, there's songs that are out right now that I don't really care for anymore. And so the ones that are out and have been out for a while that I still like, I think hopefully that, moves into the new stuff where it's like, okay, making kind of more timeless music to where hopefully in, 10, 15, 20 years, I can look back and still be proud and like those songs.
Are you allowed to listen to go ahead, Chris.
Do you ever have the urge to like make like a harder rock song? Like, I'm gonna say, like, you not go like full Chris Gaines, but like there's certain like times, like in your songs, like I always think of like the intro for like Good Girls Gone, just that like that hammer down riff that starts things off, or the way that it kind of, I don't know what you call that section of the song where it really just like stuff like that. Do you ever have the urge to make a song that's like, what carries it through?
Oh yeah.
I think about like Co Wetzel and how, he's got those low rumbling, sad, songs. And then he just puts out like a Money Spent. That's almost like that's like my favorite Co Wetzel song. And if you played it like in sequence with other songs, they'd be like, that's not the same artist almost. You know what I mean? Like, do you have that urge?
Oh yeah. I think I've like maybe scratched it a little bit, but not like, I think as I've like kind of grown and matured a little bit, it's maybe getting less that urge, but I maybe I fight that urge to just only do absolutely bangers, like rock and roll, loud. There's always so much of that you could like, I don't know. Yes. I like so much music and I like all different types of genres and stuff that I would love to make all sorts of different types of songs. And I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to, I think that influence from all those places is great. And you can kind of make different songs like that. And then you also just can't be too nuts because then the people are just like, what are you doing? What is that?
This is not what I came here for.
Yeah.
Like I distinctly remember one of the first times I saw you guys play live, and it was sort of, I think Oklahoma Skies, like what you ended it with. It was at a place in Broken Arrow, I can't remember. And when you guys finished with the end of that song, which is just so in your face, I'm not like as in your face as Keelan gets, in my opinion. But it was like the energy of that. I'm like, these guys can rock. Like I know he's like the energy you guys bring is different than like the types of live shows I would go to. Like if I didn't know you, I probably am not going to that establishment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I'm like, I'm going to support my friend. Then I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And then you can take, She's in Love with the Boy and make it a banger for a dude to sing. Just so cool.
That was fun.
There's no question behind that. That's just me gushing about the fact that I was there and I loved every second of it.
Sturgill Simpson is one of those that like I loved every album until his last one, right? And he went like Bad Out of Hell, Aerosmith style rock. I mean, like almost Rob Zombie-ish. Like, what is going? So, I mean, I get it. Like, if you like every single genre and you want to make them, but if you don't stick to your,
is that Sound and Fury the one with the car on the front of the album? Maybe I think it's probably the one you're talking about.
And I'm sure a lot of people don't like it that like his music because most of us aren't rock fit. It might be the only genre I struggle to get into is like, I could do like Pantera and Five Finger Death Punch, but then there's this huge gap of like bands, and then it gets back to, I don't know what's lower than that, but there's just that death metal. I'm not sure I'm in it, and that was like his death metal album, which was so strange. For a guy that played a banjo last week.
I think the story, like a little bit of the story behind that. Do you know there's like an anime movie that corresponds with that album? It's like straight up movie. You can watch this anime. Yes. This guy is like a Sturgill Simpson country singer, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he just watched the cartoon heavy metal. It was like, yep, we're making a record.
No, he actually has a whole thing. Like he initially was going to make 7 or 9 or how many albums, but they tell a story. Like every one of them is progressive, and it's like his rebirth. Like the initial ones is like Welcome to the World, Polywog or whatever. Like and then his death, and then his rebirth. Like it's really neat. If you go listen to him talk about him, it's a whole thing, and it's like biblical.
Yeah, he's like he's an artist. He's very, very, he's awesome. He's one of my favorite artists. Yeah.
He's very Chris Cole, and
that was about to make my question weird. Do you like people that because people that go too deep into an art? I think that's a little like people that are method actors. I'm like, there's no need, brother. There's no need. Like, turn it on, turn it off. Like, you know what I mean? Rehearse and then don't be a jerk to people on set, Christian Bale or whoever. You know, like Jared Leto, don't send dead rats to your co-stars type of thing. And I've seen, you hear about musicians doing the same thing. And then, I don't know, because I'm not like entrenched in art. I'm not an artist, but like, there's got to be this like, like I get it, like be in the moment, live in the moment, like, to make the best version of that art you're trying to make. But Like, come on, turn it off. Like, do you do that? Do you get in these moods where you want to write a song about a certain thing, or you get inspired and the song comes out more organically? Like, what's your approach to that?
Both, and I would say usually it's like inspiration. But I've definitely, like, as I've grown and continued to do it, I've probably gotten a little more ethereal myself. Just like there is like a little bit of a magic to it that I think is fun to lean into. I think, that line is so fine of like, believing in that little bit of magic and like kind of buying into like, all right, like there is something here that's untangible and mystic, but also, I'm also a pragmatist, and so you gotta be a real person. And I think the stuff, you're probably gonna reach the most people at the end of the day with the right combination of those two things. So
I've got to ask you this because I get to tell the story every once in a while, but when is the first time someone fanboyed you and they were just like, holy shit, it's him?
I never. I don't know. Not yet.
No one's recognized you at Walmart and Bixby and like, holy Mom, I downloaded all his songs.
I have been approached like out and about in Tulsa, like downtown Tulsa, by people, but it's always like super kind, and it's people coming up and they're like, hey, are you Keyland? And like, I listen to your stuff. I love your stuff.
Yes,
so
that
nice
is my name.
You.
My name is Keyland.
My name
Music
is
Company.
Keyland. And so, I mean, I guess that has happened, but never. I had an older gentleman, really nice guy. I was with friends at a place downtown eating burgers, and he like came up and was like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And he was probably like in his 50s, like his early 50s, and I was like, why? I think I literally asked, I was like, why? And he was like, I love your music. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess, like, if you want to, sure.
I have this knack for running into people I know everywhere. It doesn't matter. Even if I'm across the globe, I'll run into people, and I'm just like, why are you here from Ardmore, Oklahoma? Why are you in Germany or what? Right? We went to Boston and ran into two people from Ada. Basically Ada, Oklahoma. That I went to school down there for a couple of years at the college, but I went to a coaching clinic, which cheats. It puts me number one right in the realm of podcast listeners of a football coaching podcast. But this guy walked up and super nice, was just like, "Are you Daniel Chamberlain?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "The Daniel Chamberlain?" I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And he was like, "Oh shit, man! I just think it's so cool. Like, I love the pike." And I was like, "Oh, it's super cool." Fast forward just like 3 minutes, and me and my buddy that went with me, we're laughing about a completely unrelated topic. But I was like, oh my God, I hope that guy's not looking over here and like thinks I'm laughing at him for coming and talking to us, because I don't want to seem like the jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Right, but no, that was the first time, and I was just like, oh shit, like there's something to this. Like, people kind of out there recognize, and it makes you feel good, right? You're bringing joy to someone else's life, whatever it's through. Like, I try to do it with football intelligence and knowledge and stories and whatever else, and you're doing it with music, and which is a whole nother thing of emotions, right? Like, people in music go back forever, so I just think it's really neat. But I love hearing people's first time that someone went, oh, you're that guy stories, because it's neat, it's fun. Like, there's nothing negative to it.
It is, yeah. It's very sweet, yeah. Daniel, I feel like you got to tell us just a little, like, inaugural podcast here. What's the plan moving forward?
Yeah, I was approached by some gentlemen that have a media company, and if you don't already listen, and I'm going to be pitching these before and after anyway, most shows, but I do a couple football coaching podcasts. So the Football Coaching Podcast was the first one. I've been on there for about 3 years. The second one, Coaching 101 podcast, and we always we carry a good message there, and we talk about caring about players. I think coaching has moved away from that old school, I call it dinosaur mentality, where you're going to do things my way and I'm never going to tell you why. When I say jump, you ask how high. It's so far beyond that. Like, it really is relationships over everything is kind of my thing. And weirdly enough, this gentleman was the father of a kid I coached my very first year, so I had no idea what I was doing. And the kid liked me anyway, so I kind of had a knack for it already, at least the relationships portion. And he just asked, that we start a show and talk to everyday guys that are doing cool things. And so that's who we're going to reach out to, is just people that are just kind of faces in the crowd, but they're doing neat things. Military veterans that, that come home and you don't hear stories about them, whether good or bad. It's just, I really want to highlight guys like Nick Hall will be on eventually, I hope. Nick, I guess this is your invitation. And he's an Air Force officer who's close to retirement, and he's been a youth football coach for the last couple of years. And he contacted me, and I helped him coach his team a little bit this year from a distance. And there's guys like that are just giving back to the community, and I just think that's so neat. And that's what this gentleman wants to highlight is guys that are doing neat skills, or they have cool careers. I call them, I was telling my dad about it the other day. It's just like the dirty jobs, like Micro's dirty jobs, but for, they don't necessarily have to be dirty jobs. Like there's nothing dirty about picking a guitar and playing music, but it is neat. But I think the football side of what you do is super cool too.
Kyle also teaches at a middle school.
Right.
Let's not forget. It's a dirty job.
That is. Teaching is, I got out of it, right? I will eventually get back into it to take a head coaching job somewhere, but I want to be away from it if I'm not a head coach. It's just, I got burnt out. So yes, teaching is definitely a dirty job, but just kind of that show. I just want to go talk to people that have cool stories to tell. We're talking, on Friday, we'll be with Warren Queeton, which is, he's a military officer. He's been my commander twice now, 2 different stops, and he's from the Kiowa tribe, and I tell you what, when I started serving with him, dude, you get into that Native American culture, and it will make you feel inferior. Their culture is so cool, and then here I am just white American with what's our culture? Cold beers and bourbon, I guess. We're so without culture, we're kind of bland, and then you get into them, and it's just so neat. So, I just want to share that, make awareness for people. So that's kind of where we're going, and the sky's the limits. Our target audience or target group will be the Midwest/South to start, but really, who knows? And that's which one. We named it Voices of the Heartland just because I wanted people's voices to kind of get spread, and I think I've been blessed with a little bit of a platform for people to step in and listen. So if we can share your music and it helps you grow in your industry, then fantastic. If not, you got to tell a really cool story, and you got to kind of just be on here and watch things unfold. So
yeah. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for the invitation, and I think that's awesome. I think that's a great description of a show that I would definitely watch. Huge Dirty Jobs fan growing up. Still,
if we get Mike Rowe on, that's right. That's where we're trying to go.
If you get Mike Rowe on, you need to loop me in that text thread because
talk about fanboying.
There we go.
I would fanboy hard over meeting Mike Rowe.
The ultimate
He's
dude,
a guy,
dude.
just normal dude, super intelligent, super into multiple things that don't really seemingly go together, and just blue collar, big Micro fan. Yeah,
for sure.
With an incredible voice. I mean, just a demanding bass of a man's voice.
I watched maybe it was a YouTube show or something about him the other day, and just he talked about how he got his beginning, and it was just narrating the Discovery Channel. And I'm I got to go find these Discovery Channel, right? I got to go learn about penguins or lions or whatever he did. And he was I've done 50 shows or something on the Discovery Channel. I was that's wild, because his voice, people are I always want that booming voice. So I think he's a super cool guy too. But well, guys, we're just over an hour. I could talk forever, but I'm sure your evenings probably need to go on with themselves here, at being 8 o'clock in the Heartland. Kyle, man, I greatly appreciate you being our first guest, and I will continue listening and buying everything you put out. And
well, thanks.
And let us know when the tour hits the Tulsa, Northwest Arkansas area, because we'll start coming to shows. Good luck in your coaching. Hey, now you got to come on the coaching podcast. So that's the thing here. It's a double-edged sword. Now you're going to go on both shows.
Let's do it.
Chris, good job. Episode 1's in the books.
Yeah, I will say, Kyle, I think we got about We were not very long into this conversation, and a mutual friend of ours, texted and said, make sure you tell the story about the time you and Kyle got in a fight. And I'm not going to do it. I mean, it's we can tell Chambo off the air, but it just puts a really poor light on myself.
Hey, we all have bad days and nights, and stuff happens.
I don't even. Should we just end there to leave everyone?
No, I think I'm not. I mean, we don't need to tell a story.
We didn't really get in a fight.
We're gonna get out of here so I can hear the story. How about that?
There was no physical.
No. We're talking moments.
One last time.
We were both mad.
Chris, you don't have anything to sell right now, so get something to sell. Create a thing and let's sell it. Kyle, tell us one last time about your band, where we can go to get the music. If you've got social medias, people need to go follow, grow your numbers. The whole shebang. What you got going on?
I'm Keyland Music. My name's Kyle Ross. You can find all our music just anywhere you listen to music. So Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, whatever, YouTube, wherever you're going. Got 2 new songs out most recently this year. One's called Mine to Own, and then the most recent song's called A Little Time. And then got a song actually coming out December 27th. That song is called Twinkle in My Eye. It's a very just small acoustic song that's kind of an end of the year song. And there'll be more music to be released in 2025 that I'm really excited about. So yeah, that's it. Keyland, man. Keyland.
As long as everything goes to plan, we will be pushing Kyle's music from here on out. Like we're super appreciative of you coming and being our first dude.
Yeah, very cool.
Chris, somebody wants to talk to you. Where did they go?
I'm not good at that. Chris Cole on Facebook, and then Coach Skull, which SCOLE 51 on Twitter. Skull was my nickname in high school, so I've always wondered where it's not professional. Yeah, people just think it's just whatever.
I just figured you had a weird first name. Like some people go by their middle name. I was like,
Chris. He does have a weird first name. He does.
Yeah, Chris is not my first name, No, I had a buddy get a concussion in high school, and at halftime he's like, Chris Skull. Your nickname's Skull, and it's just been.
Because you had a fat dip in back then.
Not me. Like, no, I told you I was a sheltered theater kid in high school.
There you go.
With a mean streak. But whatever.
Well, thank you both for being here. I am Daniel Chamberlain. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Chambo OK. I generally do football stuff, so if you want to talk football. Get at me. I'm on the Football Coaching Podcast. You can find it literally anywhere that podcasts are. The other one is the Coaching 101 Podcast. The first one's with me and Joe Daniel. The second one is with me and Kenny Simpson. That's a Virginia guy and an Arkansas guy. So you want to learn about football, that's the place to go. This will all eventually make its way to a YouTube. We have one. I'll have to post it later, so it is going to be Voices of the Heartland. We couldn't go live on it tonight because I forgot to start that stupid 24-hour timer that you got to do for new pages, and I started it at like 4:30 today. So we're not live there. But if you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook, wherever you are listening to us, feel free to jump on the YouTube in the next few days and follow along as we figure out what this is all about. It's going to be a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys. Kyle, thanks again. Chris, we'll see you next time. Later, guys.
Well, cowboys are back in style. And I know it's been a while, and I often dream of you and your half green baby blues, the way your dimples sink into your smile.